All Fool's Day by Charles Lamb. The compliments of the season to my worthy masters, and a merry 1st of April to us all. Many happy returns of this day to you, sir. Nay, never frown, man, nor put a long face upon the matter. Do not we know one another? What need of ceremony among friends? We have all a touch of that same, you understand me, a speck of the motley. Beshrew the man who on such a day as this, the general festival, should affect to stand aloof. I am none of those sneakers. I am free of the corporation and care not who knows it. He that meets me in the forest today shall meet with no wiseacre, I can tell him. Stultus sum. Translate me that, and take the meaning of it to yourself for your pains. What man, we have 4/4 of the globe on our side, at the least computation. Fill us a cup of that sparkling gooseberry. We will drink no wise, melancholy, politic port on this day, and let us troll the ketch of Armian, duck ad me, how goes it? Here shall he see gross fools as he. Now would I give a trifle to know historically and authentically who was the greatest fool that ever lived. I would certainly give him in a bumper. Mary of the present breed, I think I could without much difficulty name you the party. Remove your cap a little further if you please, it hides my bauble. And now each man bestride his hobby, and dust away his bells to what tune he pleases. I will give you for my part the crazy old church clock, and the bewildered chimes. Good Master Empedocles, you are welcome. It is long since you went a salamander gathering down TNA, worse than samphire picking by some odds. 'Tis a mercy your worship did not singe your mustachios. Ha, Cleombrotus, and what salads in faith did you light upon at the bottom of the Mediterranean? You were founder, I take it, of the disinterested sect of the calenturists. Jebiah, my old Freemason and Prince of Plasterers at Babel, bring in your trowel, most ancient grand. You have claimed to a seat here at my right hand, as patron of the stammerers. You left your work, if I remember Herodotus correctly, at 800 million toises, or thereabout, above the level of the sea. Bless us, what a long bell you must have pulled, to call your top workmen to their nuncheon on the low grounds of Sennaar. Or did you send up your garlic and onions by a rocket? I am a rogue if I am not ashamed to show you our monument on Fish Street Hill, after your altitudes, yet we think it somewhat. What the magnanimous Alexander in tears. Cry baby, put its finger in its eye, it shall have another globe, round as an orange, pretty moppet. Mr. Adams, also, I honour your coat. Pray do us the favour to read to us that sermon which you lent to Mistress Slipslop, the 22nd in your portmanteau there, on female incontinence, the same. It will come in most irrelevantly and impertinently seasonable to the time of the day. Good Master Raymond Lully, you look wise, pray correct that error. Duns, spare your definitions, I must fine you a bumper or a paradox. We will have nothing said or done syllogistically this day. Remove those logical forms, waiter, that no gentleman break the tender shins of his apprehension, stumbling across them. Master Stephen, you are late. Ha, Coax, is it you? Egg-cheek, my dear knight, let me pay my devoir to you. Master Shallow, your worship's poor servant to command. Master Silence, I will use few words with you. Slender, it shall go hard if I edge not you in somewhere. You 6 will engross all the poor wit of the company today. I know it. Ha, honest my fine old librarian of Ludgate, time out of mind art thou here again. Bless thy doublet, it is not over new, threadbare as thy stories. What dost thou flitting about the world at this rate? Thy customers are extinct, defunct, bedrid, have ceased to read long ago. Thou goest still among them, seeing if peradventure thou canst hawk a volume or two. Good Granville S., thy last patron is flown. King Pandion, he is dead, all thy friends are lapped in lead. Nevertheless, noble R., come in, and take your seat here between Armado and Quisada. For in true courtesy, in gravity, in fantastic smiling to thyself, in courteous smiling upon others, in the goodly ornature of well-apparelled speech, and the commendation of wise sentences, thou art nothing inferior to those accomplished dons of Spain. The spirit of chivalry forsake me for ever, when I forget thy singing the song of Masheth, which declares that he might be happy with either, situated between those 2 ancient spinsters, when I forget the inimitable formal love which thou didst make, turning now to the one and now to the other with that Malvolian smile, as if Cervantes, not Gay, had written it for his hero, and as if thousands of periods must revolve before the mirror of courtesy could have given his invidious preference between a pair of so goodly propertied and meritorious equal damsels. To descend from these altitudes, and not to protract our fool's banquet beyond its appropriate day. For I fear the 2nd of April is not many hours distant. In sober verity I will confess a truth to thee, reader. I love a fool as naturally as if I were of kith and kin to him. When a child, with childlike apprehensions that dived not below the surface of the matter, I read those parables, not guessing at their involved wisdom, I had more yearnings towards that simple architect that built his house upon the sand than I entertained for his more cautious neighbour. I grudged at the hard censure pronounced upon the quiet soul that kept his talent, and prizing their simplicity beyond the more provident, and, to my apprehension, somewhat unfeminine wariness of their competitors, I felt a kindliness that almost amounted to a tender for those 5 thoughtless virgins. I have never made an acquaintance since that lasted, or a friendship that answered, with any that had not some tincture of the absurd in their characters. I venerate an honest obliquity of understanding. The more laughable blunders a man shall commit in your company, the more tests he giveth you that he will not betray or overreach you. I love the safety which a palpable hallucination warrants, the security which a word out of season ratifies, and take my word for this, reader, and say a fool told it you if you please that he who hath not a dram of folly in his mixture, hath pounds of much worse matter in his composition. It is observed that the foolisher the fowl or fish, woodcocks, dotterels, cards' heads, and sea, the finer the flesh thereof, and what are commonly the world's received fools, but such whereof the world is not worthy, and what have been some of the kindliest patterns of our species, but so many darlings of absurdity, minions of the goddess and her white boys. Reader, if you wrest my words beyond their fair construction, it is you, and not I, that are the April fool. Still-born silence, thou that art floodgate of the deeper heart, offspring of a heavenly kind, frost o' the mouth and thaw o' the mind, secrecy's confidant and he who makes religion mystery, admiration's speaking-sty tongue, leave thy desert shades among reverend hermits' hallowed cells where retired devotion dwells. With thy enthusiasms come, seize our tongues and strike us dumb. 1. Reader, wouldst thou know what true peace and quiet mean? Wouldst thou find a refuge from the noises and clamours of the multitude? Wouldst thou enjoy at once solitude and society? Wouldst thou possess the depth of thy own spirit in stillness, without being shut out from the consolatory faces of thy species? Wouldst thou be alone and yet accompanied, solitary yet not desolate, singular yet not without some to keep thee in countenance, a unit in aggregate, a simple in composite? Come with me into a Quaker's meeting. Dost thou love silence deep as that before the winds were made? Go not out into the wilderness, descend not into the profundities of the earth, shut not up thy casements, nor pour wax into the little cells of thy ears, with little-faithed, self-mistrusting Ulysses. Retire with me into a Quaker's meeting. For a man to refrain even from good words, and to hold his peace, it is commendable, but for a multitude it is great mastery. What is the stillness of the desert compared with this place? What the uncommunicating muteness of fishes? Here the goddess reigns and revels. Boreas and seizures and argests loud do not with their interconfounding uproars more augment the brawl, nor the waves of the blown Baltic with their clubbed sounds, than their opposite, silence her sacred self, is multiplied and rendered more intense by numbers, and by sympathy. She too hath her deeps that call unto deeps. Negation itself hath a positive more and less, and closed eyes would seem to obscure the great obscurity of midnight. There are wounds which an imperfect solitude cannot heal. By imperfect I mean that which a man enjoyeth by himself. The perfect is that which he can sometimes attain in crowds, but nowhere so absolutely as in a Quaker's meeting. Those first hermits did certainly understand this principle, when they retired into Egyptian solitudes, not singly, but in shoals, to enjoy one another's want of conversation. The Carthusian is bound to his brethren by this agreeing spirit of incommunicativeness. In secular occasions, what so pleasant as to be reading a book through a long winter evening, with a friend sitting by, say a wife, he or she too, if that be probable, reading another without interruption or oral communication? Can there be no sympathy without the gabble of words? Away with this inhuman, shy, single, shade and cavern-haunting solitariness. Give me, Master Zimmerman, a sympathetic solitude. To pace alone in the cloisters, or side aisles of some cathedral time-stricken, or under hanging mountains, or by the fall of fountains, is but a vulgar luxury, compared with that which those enjoy, who come together for the purposes of more complete abstracted solitude. This is the loneliness to be felt. The Abbey Church of Westminster hath nothing so solemn, so spirit-soothing, as the naked walls and benches of a Quaker's meeting. Here are no tombs, no inscriptions. Sans ignoble things, dropped from the ruined sides of kings. But here is something, which throws antiquity herself into the foreground, silence, eldest of things, language of old night, primitive discourser, to which the insolent decays of mouldering grandeur have but arrived by a violent, and, as we may say, unnatural progression. How reverend is the view of these hushed heads, looking tranquillity. Nothing plotting, not caballing, unmischievous synod, convocation without intrigue, parliament without debate. What a lesson dost thou read to council and to consistory? If my pen treat of you lightly, as haply it will wander, yet my spirit hath gravely felt the wisdom of your custom, when sitting among you in deepest peace, which some outwelling tears would rather confirm than disturb, I have reverted to the times of your beginnings, and the sowings of the seed by Fox and Dewsbury. I have witnessed that which brought before my eyes your heroic tranquillity, inflexible to the rude jests and serious violences of the insolent soldiery, republican or royalist, sent to molest you, for ye sate betwixt the fires of two persecutions, the outcast and off-scouring of church and presbytery. I have seen the reeling sea ruffian who had wandered into your receptacle, with the avowed intention of disturbing your quiet, from the very spirit of the place receive in a moment a new heart, and presently sit among ye as a lamb amidst lambs. And I remembered Pen before his accusers, and Fox in the bail-dock, where he was lifted up in spirit, as he tells us, and the judge and the jury became as dead men under his feet. Reader, if you are not acquainted with it, I would recommend to you, above all church narratives, to read Sewell's History of the Quakers. It is in folio, and is the abstract of the journals of Fox and the Primitive Friends. It is far more edifying and affecting than anything you will read of Wesley and his colleagues. Here is nothing to stagger you, nothing to make you mistrust, no suspicion of alloy, no drop or dreg of the worldly or ambitious spirit. You will here read the true story of that much injured, ridiculed man, who perhaps hath been a byword in your mouth, James Naylor. What dreadful sufferings, with what patience he endured even to the boring through of his tongue with red-hot irons without a murmur, and with what strength of mind, when the delusion he had fallen into, which they stigmatized for blasphemy, had given way to clearer thoughts, he could renounce his error, in a strain of the beautifulest humility, yet keep his first grounds and be a Quaker still. So different from the practice of your common converts from enthusiasm, who, when they apostatize all, and think they can never get far enough from the society of their former errors, even to the renunciation of some saving truths, with which they had been mingled, not implicated. Get the writings of John Woolman by heart, and love the early Quakers. How far the followers of these good men in our days have kept to the primitive spirit, or in what proportion they have substituted formality for it, the judge of spirits can alone determine. I have seen faces in their assemblies, upon which the dove sate visibly brooding. Others again I have watched, when my thoughts should have been better engaged, in which I could possibly detect nothing but a blank inanity. But quiet was in all, and the disposition to unanimity, and the absence of the fierce controversial workings. If the spiritual pretensions of the Quakers have abated, at least they make few pretenses. Hypocrites they certainly are not in their preaching. It is seldom, indeed, that you shall see one get up amongst them to hold forth. Only now and then a trembling, female, generally ancient voice is heard. You cannot guess from what part of the meeting it proceeds, with a low, buzzing, musical sound, laying out a few words which she thought might suit the condition of some present, with a quaking diffidence, which leaves no possibility of supposing that anything of female vanity was mixed up, where the tones were so full of tenderness and a restraining modesty. The men, for what I observed, speak seldomer. Once only, and it was some years ago, I witnessed a sample of the old Foxian orgasm. It was a man of giant stature, who, as Wordsworth phrases it, might have danced, from head to foot equipped in iron mail. His frame was of iron too, but he was malleable. I saw him shake all over with the spirit, I dare not say of delusion. The strivings of the outer man were unutterable. He seemed not to speak, but to be spoken from. I saw the strong man bowed down, and his knees to fail. His joints all seemed loosening. It was a figure to set off against Paul preaching. The words he uttered were few and sound. He was evidently resisting his will, keeping down his own word wisdom with more mighty effort than the world's orators strain for theirs. He had been a wit in his youth, he told us with expressions of a sober remorse, and it was not till long after the impression had begun to wear away that I was enabled, with something like a smile, to recall the striking incongruity of the confession, understanding the term in its worldly acceptation, with the frame and physiognomy of the person before me. His brow would have scared away the levities, the jocos rissusque, faster than the loves fled the face of dissects. By wit, even in his youth, I will be sworn he understood something far within the limits of an allowable liberty. More frequently the meeting is broken up without a word having been spoken, but the mind has been fed. You go away with a sermon not made with hands. You have been in the milder caverns of Trophonius, or as in some den where that fiercest and savagest of all wild creatures, the tongue, that unruly member, has strangely lain tied up and captive. You have bathed with stillness. Oh, when the spirit is sore fretted, even tired to sickness of the janglings and nonsense noises of the world, what a balm and a solace it is to go and seat yourself, for a quiet half-hour, upon some undisputed corner of a bench among the gentle Quakers. Their garb and stillness conjoined present an uniformity, tranquil and herd-like as in the pasture, 40 feeding like one. The very garments of a Quaker seem incapable of receiving a soil, and cleanliness in them to be something more than the absence of its contrary. Every Quakeress is a lily, and when they come up in bands to their Whitsun conferences, whitening the easterly streets of the metropolis from all parts of the United Kingdom, they show like troops of the shining ones.